Hello, everyone. So I just came across a great post on LinkedIn that Nikke wrote on attribution, and basically stopped me from my train of thought that I had. And I realized that she and I, we are mostly thinking about marketing teams in the same way, and we're wrestling with the same attribution problems that like everyone does. Like marketers don't actually like MQLs, sales don't like MQLs, and everyone's frustrated about it, right? And these dashboards, when I talk to my sales about these dashboards, they're like rolling their eyes on me. And nobody else, like nobody feels like confident about like how to solve them, how to read them, and so on. What actually really hit me in Nikki's post is that how she argues that dashboards actually are so busy that they should be abolished. You should get rid of them. And in fact, you should have something that makes sense and has a practical value. And that actually changed my view of how we should think about ABM measurement. Um, so Nikke Rose has spent the last decade building and running sales-aligned account-based marketing programs in B2B SaaS. So she has a frontline view, but not only a view, she gets her hands dirty, sometimes way too dirty, uh, where she talks about like how does the old model help, where it breaks, and what a model measurement system approach can look like. Um, so sit up, follow me along, uh, Nikki, and Nikki, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Stefan. Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And I'm sure everyone here does too. Welcome. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Look, not only because I've been in the ABM trenches for several years now, as Stefan just mentioned, but I absolutely live and have loathed the MQL trap, right? So much so that I keep asking, why are leaders and boards still so stuck on them? Just cannot figure it out. And so that question really has turned into this kind of quest, if you will. Look, having performance judged by how many MQLs are created, even when the actual goal is to move target accounts toward revenue, well, it's completely missing the point, right? So today's not going to be about shaming the old metrics. It's going to be about naming what they were designed to do, where they stopped working, and what a more holistic go to market measurement model could look like. And to Stefan, as a demand generation, ABM, and go to market veteran and peer who sees this too, thank you so much for initiating this webinar. And I want to say thank you all for joining today. I suspect if you're here, then you also have been pondering this question and are simply looking for new ways to solve these old problems. Right, Stefan?
Yeah, and I want to make this webinar as practical as possible. That's why I've done it in the first place. Basically, the goal is not to build something very pretty like a dashboard or invent new words. The goal is to help people actually move accounts from cold to warm to hey, we got the sale. And I'm actually thinking about ABM reporting. That's where I want to make it more useful for people who are running, who are there in the troves, in the trenches, for those who run it day by day. All right.
The operators, 100%. All right, well, then let's start by naming the trap most of us get caught in. So, the trap being account-based teams are still being measured with lead era scorecards. So MQL volume, last touch credit, form fills, and campaign source pipeline can all be useful, but they weren't designed to explain buying group movement. And that really matters because leadership pressure to report on performance continues to increase. So we see here on the slide, LinkedIn recently reported that nearly half of B2B marketers say that they have to report on performance, not just quarterly, used to be in the old days, biannually, but they have to report monthly to the C-suite. That's intense pressure. 87% say it's also getting harder to measure the long-term impact. And, almost 80% of B2B CMOs today say proving campaign ROI has become increasingly important alone in the last 2 years. And Stefan, tell us about the buy side. It's not getting any easier, is it?
No, not really. It's not getting any easier at all. So Gartner found out that I would say for anywhere from 5 to 16 people can sit in a B2B buying group across multiple functions, marketing, sales, CS, and sometimes even more, right? So the data is coming from 2025.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, this is just kind of a proof point slide that it's no wonder more of us B2B marketers are pivoting their marketing strategies and our reporting efforts. But the problem is, like even when Forrester re-architected its in 2006 and later 2012 lead-based waterfall in 2021, there really hasn't ever been a truly holistic go-to-market measurement model that's about moving the whole account for revenue. So before we get too far into the proposed frameworks today, I just want to say having you all here today really matters. It really matters because it's important to get a quick read on where this is showing up for you as a value practitioner in the same space, and because ABM measurement can break in a few different places. So if Stefan and I can quickly ask that you have your mobile phone handy, if you can grab that and join in on the quick poll, all you have to do is scan the QR code right now. And once you do, a poll question will come up, and I'll give it a second. It'll show up when I advance the slide. And the question is, where is ABM measurement hardest for you in your organization right now? And then just rank it highest to lowest. So if you scan the QR code, you should now see the live poll.
Okay, let's wait for the live poll. Please scan and like you do the right stuff. Just put a mark there where it feels like you.
Okay, just give that 1 second.
Let's give people like probably like a minute more.
Yeah, and if it's not obvious, when you choose your answers, you can actually change the order so you can rank them once you choose them.
Yeah. Yeah. These are all tough questions. Like
I
we
know.
wouldn't know what is it, right?
Yeah, if you could just pick I mean, for me, they're all equally hard, but I'm going to go with my top 3 at the top.
Is I kind of choose your poison.
That's right.
All right, 3 people. That's not too bad. Okay. All right, let's see if we can get someone else to answer. Otherwise, we can go on. Because I'm kind of feeling the room. Right. Come on, we need your number 4. We need at least one more answer. Well, technically, we have three answers. That's already like scientific. So that's already like there is already scientific significance to this. So we have 4. Okay, awesome. All right, so we have 4 answers. Thank you guys. Love you. Okay, so this gives me a sense, and Nikke as well, where the room is. And the thing is that they're all kind of interconnected, and if buying group coverage is weak, then your readiness is impossible to trust, right? So, and if there is no if there is no account progression from, let's say, no signal to first signal to high engagement, then attribution gets super messy. You won't know who did what and how did it influence. So if the handoff in between these stages is not trusted, then the dashboard, any kind of dashboard you're going to build, is going to lose its credibility, even if it's in Salesforce. And then leadership will be still optimizing around MQLs because they won't trust your data, yada yada yada. So then in the end, ABM or ABX, whatever you guys use in the company, is going to get measured with their own scoreboard.
Right. I think for me, it's always a tie. The number one and number two, connecting attribution to revenue, is kind of the trap that leads to gaining leadership support for change. It's almost like a chicken and the egg. So today, we're here to kind of break that pattern, and kind of blow some winds of change into this conundrum that we're all living in. So let's just jump right in with a hypothetical dashboard to show why the old way isn't working so well. Now, this is a mock-up of a top of funnel, also middle of funnel metrics dashboard. There's actually a bottom of funnel of this dashboard, but you get the point. Now, this dashboard, this isn't bad. In fact, many of us have built dashboards just like this. It tells you leads were created, the sources that were contributing, and the MQLs that move, the sales accepted leads that happen, and campaigns that were generating activity. But it still doesn't answer the leadership question, which is, are the accounts we care about actually moving toward revenue?
I mean, to be honest, there's like a lot of metrics here, and I got a little bit lost in defining what is a SAL and what is an MQL. But this is not new. This is how actually like teams can look busy without actually being able to prove movement. There is a funny story. So I have a guy an acquaintance who says, "Look, if I have the three margarita rule, right? So if you're drinking a margarita, and then after three margaritas, you cannot explain what the dashboard is, then the dashboard is too complicated, okay? And the numbers, they kind of like show you like where you are, but it doesn't actually show you the most important part, whether an account is progressing or not, and whether the right, are we engaging the right roles, or we're talking to the cleaner lady. No offense, love those. And whether like all these like people are moving all together, or one person went to Africa, the other one went to Latin America, the third one is in the US. Okay, so
We should have had this webinar 2 days ago. We missed Cinco de Mayo by 2 days, Stefan. Love to hand out margaritas right now. But okay, look, the point is leads, activities, but if the dashboard doesn't answer the account movement question, then simply the strategy needs to be reframed. And so that is, let me advance the slide. The reframing here is that ABM is not just a set of campaigns. It's not a marketing side project. Look, if target account growth is the strategy, then the entire go-to-market team needs a shared measurement model. The CEO wants quality growth. The CRO obviously wants pipeline growth and wins. SDRs are looking to get accounts that are worth pursuing, and sales wants trusted handoffs. Marketing wants to show that they've influenced and created readiness. Customer success wants to look for expansion potential and protect revenue quality. And our friends in RevOps need clean definitions and clean data. But the problem is that too many teams are still measuring their own agendas separately instead of measuring emotion that they're all supposed to run together. And therein lies the conundrum. I think that's the practical reality.
Yeah, I mean, you can have a very strong account list with, let's say, 10 accounts, like very strong content that speaks exactly to those accounts, and they're laser focused, kind of targeting. But if we don't agree on what movement from say no signal to first engagement means, or from engagement to for like sales accept lead, then the motion breaks at the handoff right away.
Right. All right. I'm looking at the time here. Let's speed it up. Stefan, let's get through. We're going to introduce something a little funny, a funny metaphor, and we're going to frame the issue once and for all and go through the actual proposed 4-layer KPI. So here, just humor me for a minute here. I wanted to give this metaphor to make it stick. So my thought is, if you think of the account like a cruise ship, and the people on the ship are the buying group, and the movement is account progression. And to the left, you have the lead era measurement, which is the fishing net. So the memorable line here is, we're not trying to catch one person on the ship, trying to get the entire ship to move.
Yeah, I mean,
Funny.
it's kind of funny, right? But and the metaphor, I like the joke. The metaphor is useful because it changes the question we had. So if one person fills the form, then it could be interesting. But did the ship move anywhere? Did many more people get involved? Did the account change its projection from like readiness to accepted pursuit to like qualified pipeline? I don't know.
Right? Absolutely. And those are the better questions. And that's why attribution obviously needs to be repositioned, because while our strategies have evolved, keep up with the way the buyers are buying today, the way we measure has truly stagnated. And to the point of attribution, well, I would say it still matters. I don't think the answer is to throw it away. I think the issue is that attribution is often being asked to be the primary proof model for account-based go-to-market motion. And as we discussed, in a buying group reality, influence is distributed across people, roles, channels, stages, and of course, time. So first and last touch attribution is not built to really explain that full motion. So let's just say we'll keep attribution, but we'll use it as a useful diagnostic learning layer, but not the primary proof model.
Yeah, I think the best model, the better model has like 2 layers at least. So governance in itself gives you consistency, like source fields, kind of like finance's best friend in the reporting. And learning helps you understand what influenced like movement at each stage you have, what roles were engaged, where like friction showed up, and which plays improve the progression itself.
Right. Yeah. So let's just say instead of starting with attribution, we'll start with a more modern and a more relevant revenue KPI stack. So the replacement model is this 4-layer revenue KPI stack made up of coverage, readiness, throughput, and yield. So we'll go through each one of these individually, but just know each layer asks a main question. So coverage asks, hey, can we actually run an account-based motion properly? The readiness layer asks, are the right people showing buying energy? The throughput layer is asking, are account progressing through the revenue ladder? And yield asks, is the motion creating quality revenue? Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how the sequence comes out of this. So like if we don't have enough awareness coverage, then your readiness is just means zero.
Yeah.
And if your readiness is unclear, then your throughput or your like output is messy. If that throughput is invisible, then attribution is becoming like undebatable, and you can't learn out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's break down each layer and let's start with coverage. So coverage quite simply answers that most basic question I mentioned. Can we actually run an account-based motion properly? So this means, do we have the right account, the right people, and enough reach within the buying group to run a coordinated go-to-market motion? So you want to make sure you're looking at ICP fit account coverage here, contactability by account and by tier, and you're looking at buying group completeness, the role coverage across economic buyers. You've got champions, users, technical stakeholders, security, compliance, and procurement, right? The whole buying group committee. And you also have the known and the unknown stakeholders in a group. So you want to make sure who's known and who's unknown. And make sure your coverage is complete.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, and I'd like to add to this that that's why many projects do fail. If we miss the buying group, engagement can look weak on paper, even if the account is a great fit for us, you know. So attribution can look incomplete because a bigger part of the buying group was never visible on the map from the start, you know.
Exactly. Now, low engagement may not mean low intent. It may mean low reach. And once coverage is there, then the next question is whether those accounts are showing readiness. And readiness measures whether target accounts are moving through those pre-opportunity buying stages, right? So this is the marketing's proverbial buying journey, where you
Okay.
have intent signals, first-party on-site behaviors, predictive scoring, and buying group engagement. All becomes relevant and useful here, but only when interpreted at the account level. So the account object has to be the centerpiece here. Marketing teams often describe pre-opportunity buying journey in the stages that you see here. I'm sure most everyone on the call is familiar with target, awareness, consideration, evaluation, sometimes also known as decision, and the purchase ready stages. But I also want to emphasize that if you're using predictive scoring, the major ABM platforms do provide this, then just use it as a guide, but not the decision. Because while those scores indicate the likelihood of an opportunity opening, let's say in the next 90 days, the account level threshold still needs human review and go-to-market team alignment. That's important.
Well, yeah, because not every signal, like not every MQL should be pursued by sales. I mean, there is nothing that sales hates more than pursuing an MQL with emails and then getting nothing out of that. So like, you know, awareness and consideration, those stages help us understand the early stage buy-in, like energy, you may say. I mean, when they're in the evaluation and in the purchase stages, they're kind of stronger, especially if there's like multiple people involved within the buyer decision committee, and basically it's you have more clarity of why, what, how, and that engagement is getting more relevant, and then you know it signals sort of like a clear like why now.
And why now? That's right. Now, when it gets to evaluation and purchase ready, it's getting more dense and more clear on the why now. So that's readiness, which brings us to the bridge to go from readiness to action, where we're going to enter the throughput layer. Now, throughput is where account-based measurement becomes actually operational. It's going to answer, are the target accounts moving from readiness into an accepted pursuit and a qualified opportunity creation? Now, look, for this illustration, the account-based RevOps conversion ladder we have here goes from target and then to MQA, AQA, and SQO. So target, you have the ICP fit account selected for the pursuit, usually grouped in a target account list or a segment. Then marketing qualified accounts. These are accounts, not leads, that cross the marketing readiness threshold that we just discussed in the last slide. So in other words, it's not just engaged, It's an ICP fit account that's showing late stage behavior that Stefan mentioned. So it's either in the evaluation or purchase ready stage. And it's also showing enough buying group engagement density. And there's no recent open, won, or lost opportunity blocking the motion, like let's say in a 90-day corridor, just to make it fair. And that's what makes a marketing qualified account ready for SDR and sales engagement. Now, then it goes to the AQA, which is the accepted qualified account, otherwise known as the SDR accepted pursuit moment, and then the sales qualified opportunity. And that's the milestone where deal velocity and deal size will get measured toward the win.
Okay. I mean, for the handoff, I like keeping things simple. So it's like MQA maximum plus one strong like why now signal. So before the meeting I have with sales, like SDRs are also there. This could be like a repeated pricing or like package visit, comparison content, security compliance, like content views, spikes, maybe an inbound reply, or it could be like a sudden multi-role engagement in that. So it's not one click, right? One click doesn't mean anything. So one click, one lead, that doesn't solve much. Basically, like a credible reason to act or pass um, to another stage.
Right. That's a great call out, Stefan. Yeah,
Thank you.
once we're not having leads, but we're having accounts that are moving, the next question is whether that movement is producing quality revenue. So enter the yield layer. Now, the yield is where account-based activity gets linked to business outcomes. This is where leadership can evaluate whether the account-based motion is producing things like the right kind of revenue, not just more activity. So we're looking at win rates within target account. We're looking at deal size growth. We're looking at sales cycle length, stage efficiency. Also, expansion pipeline and shared wallet would be here. And let's not forget the renewal rates and NRR, that net retention revenue.
That's also where ABM moves from like own programming performance to corporate go-to-market performance, right? Like the goal in itself is not having more activity, but the goal is to have like better revenue quality, better pipeline from those accounts that you have chosen to prioritize.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully that made the model clear to everyone. Let's show an example of what leadership should actually see. So even though what you're looking at is a dashboard that's a complete mock-up, the goal here is to show the kind of dashboard that starts answering the right question. Instead of showing only MQLs and other lead-based metrics and source charts, it shows whether target accounts are moving here. It's showing where they're getting stuck. And it's showing how stage movement differs by segment. Overall, it's giving the go-to-market team operators a way to diagnose and work better together. And it gives leaders a way to trust the motion at first glance, even 3 margaritas in.
How about 4?
Maybe even 4.
Things have to be simple, you know. That's why you can have another report, but that's not what the dashboard is built for. The difference between the dashboard and the report is that the dashboard should tell you clearly where to act. And if accounts are stopped, like if they're stalled at a certain level, then that could be a handoff slash stage problem. If they are stuck before MQA, then I would say that's often more of a coverage or like readiness issue.
Yeah, correct. Okay, so now I'm going to share the second view that makes the KPI stack even more explicit.
Right?
This is the one I like best for the leadership view. because it combines the account-based conversion ladder with the 4-layer KPI stack that we introduced today. So the first row, which you guys can see here, is showing the conversion ladder, right? You got your target, MQA, AQA, meetings, opportunities, and wins. And then the second row is doing the 4-layer KPI stack with coverage metrics, readiness, the throughput again, but this time with the conversion rates and the yield ultimately. There's also insights. I mean, this is a mock-up, but it helps the teams. It helps the teams at first glance get an idea of account progression and what's working, and then where there's bottlenecks and how the teams can work better together to solve for those. So, of course, operationally speaking, I just want to say this whole spiel only works if the data model can support it. So I wanted to bring up here that the best models will break the CRM can't roll activity and engagement up to the account or company level, right? So this is in the objects in the CRM database. So the CRM in HubSpot, the HubSpot CRM can make these roll-ups much easier through the contact company association, assuming data hygiene is strong.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Salesforce CRM, it requires a little bit more discipline because lead activity may also sit outside the account relationship before conversion, right? So Salesforce has the leads, the contacts, and the account objects. A lot of times, the lead activity is sitting outside and not associated with the account. So for Salesforce CRM users, a lead to account matching is foundational if you want pre-opportunity engagement attribution and progression to roll up correctly. This may require, likely, that you need to turn to point solutions like Lean Data, or there's Zoom Info's Ring Lead, and there are others. But yeah, that's just a CRM call out. But then also there's a regional issue too, right, Stefan? As you're sitting there in Europe, tell us about the regional one.
There is. Hi, Annika. Annika has a question about dashboard. I'm gonna highlight it here. Can you explain how to operationalize in your CRM? What is needed to set up in Salesforce, HubSpot to make this dashboard possible? It's regarding the previous dashboard.
Okay. Let me advance. Let me go back to that. Okay. All right. So the question is again how to operationalize this in the CRM.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think that would require another webinar to go into the electrical and plumbing, but I love it. But the dashboard is just really a visible layer, but underneath, behind it, as I mentioned, the account or company object has to become the central place where fit, buying group identification, buying group coverage, right? Types of engagement, intent, what else you have. Stage progression, of course, the different activities, dark funnel, keywords and topics being researched, what they're doing on your website, and joining webinars, and opportunity outcomes all roll up. So it all has to roll up to the account level. And that means, I would say, right fields. You have to have, and this is really a RevOps topic we could dive deeper in later, but the right fields, the clean associations. I had mentioned lead to account matching is imperative if you're using Salesforce. Make sure that your sales engagement platforms, sales law, outreach, those kind of things are feeding the right signals. Yeah. So anyway, long story short, without all of this, proper electrical and plumbing, the dashboard is just a prettier picture. And with it, the dashboard becomes a trusted operating view of the go-to-market motion. Thank you for that great question.
Yeah.
We can go over that. Maybe we should connect offline.
If I may intervene here, I have my 5 cents here. So I think what I'm possibly you might want to have all this is that you might have an engine which will score these accounts based on signals, right? So in behind, you should be measuring signals too, like first party, third party, like LinkedIn engagement, emails. How many emails like, have we exchanged emails with them? Did they, any events that we met all these people? So it's all under the hood. Uh,
Mhm.
so I would say that those parts should be definitely present. They're not, you don't see them on the dashboard, but that should be under the hood. And obviously, this is a dashboard that combines marketing and sales. So all your deal flow has to be in it. All the deals have to be logged. All the actions you're taking have to be logged as well, because that's the only thing that will give you like the correct picture on the dashboard. I think we can continue because we
Yeah,
can
yeah,
back
that's a
to
good
this.
call out. I think a lot of that, what you were saying too, would be in the readiness with the predictive scoring, right? Taken into account. Okay. Yeah, but the regional, I guess just one call out, Stefan, you're sitting in Europe and US. I have spent half of my career living and working in Europe. I know that US teams may have more data volume and tooling, right? But we still have trust gap. And then in Europe, privacy, consent, localization, and thinner third-party signal density mean that if you're in Europe and EU, that you need stronger first-party and CRM context before moving an account forward. But globally speaking, the structure holds. But regionally speaking, thresholds and signals weighting just need to adapt. And I think that makes sense. And with that, let's keep going. We're almost at time. Let's land this with what to fix first. I think this kind of goes back to the question as well. So if you take one thing from today, don't just start debating attribution models. Instead, start with the operating model. And here are 3 fixes that we propose that you take back with you and have a discussion with your teams. First of all, discuss the definitions of this account-based KPI stack, right? The 4-layer KPI ladder. So you have coverage, readiness, throughput, and yield. And then I think this is also, Stefan, what you were talking about just now. It's really aligning on those readiness thresholds, right? Whether just you have predictive scoring helping, but it's important to align with your go-to-market teams on the account-based RevOps conversion ladders and on those readiness thresholds, right? Because as Stefan mentioned, even we're working at accounts and we're showing, fine group density and signal density, it still needs to be monitored and interpreted by humans for the handoff. And then after you align on these definitions, then we'd say the third thing is work with your team to design and build out a pilot dashboard, considering the electrical and plumbing with your leadership and RevOps is working through the account object or company object. Once you have that, it should be fairly easy to make a pilot dashboard. We have one leadership view around account progression. And then I would use attribution as the diagnostic learning layer, but not the only proof of impact. Because just thinking, marketing ROI becomes even more credible when it's tied to account movement and revenue quality, and not just lead volume and campaign influence, right?
Very much. I mean, please, everyone who's following us, if this topic, you love this topic, right? Download the ABM GTM measurement reset kit. It's right there. You got it. Just click and then you can download it. It is designed to help genuinely replace like lead era, MQL era reporting with an account-based measurement. Um, that your go-to-market team can actually use. And don't forget to subscribe to Rev AI Real Talk as well, and send some questions you want us to unpack in future deep dives.
Awesome. Yeah, we can continue on if there's any more questions. Definitely open it up to the floor. And thank you everyone for your time today. And I hope this really resonated with you. It's definitely time for change. And Stefan and I also lined up some questions. So feel free, if no questions come in from the floor, happy to go through some of these that we brainstormed ourselves. I think the first one is what lead era metric is hardest to unwind. And I don't know about you, Stefan, but um, uh, my first instinct is to shout out MQLs very loudly, not because they're useless, but because they came from like a default proxy for marketing performance. I think the problem with MQL volume, it just doesn't tell us if we have the right accounts, if we have that coverage, and we have that readiness going on. Are they engaged? Are the right people being reached, right? And if sales has a credible reason to act on them. So in short, I would say let's not kill the MQL, although some of us would really love to. But I think the better message is to stop using them as the main scoreboard for an account-based motion.
I wouldn't use, well, I personally do not consider MQL something that you should measure at all. I mean, we're talking about the era when Aaron Ross, predictable revenue, when predictable revenue was a thing, when people would say, "Oh, look, this is how it should be." Um, like you create, I don't know, if you create 500,000 MQLs, this is the conversion rate: 5%, 3%, 1%, 0.3%, and then that's how you get the leads, and then you close. And then it was very predictable, very very comfortable for venture capitalists, and it was super great. Now it started to devalue itself with time, because the market started to change. There's like more competition, more uncertainty, and now we're in an era when we have changes are coming every 2 weeks. You have a cloud model every 2 3 weeks, and then unfortunately it's getting shittier from model to model. 4.6 was okay, 4.7 is not okay. Anyway, I'm talking that we're living in the world where everything is measured by results, not by volume, but by results. So MQLs, or anything that shows just the volume, just lost its point. Like you charge, like software charge is being charged by like tokens, right? So like, what can you get done with this? Meanwhile, MQLs is like, what can I do with the MQLs? I cannot project from an MQL amount, like revenue. It's usually an undeniable prediction I can do.
Yeah, I think the main thing there is because it's missing so much context, right? Yeah, which brings us perhaps to another question to ponder. If it's not the MQL, then let's talk about MQA and the marketing qualified account, and then the next stage for the SDR handshake, the accepted qualified account. So how would you define these? I guess was one of my questions. It's like, okay, if it's not the MQL, let's stop talking about what it's not, and let's talk about what it is or could be. So for me, a marketing qualified account means that marketing sees enough account level readiness to trigger action, quite simply. So that usually combines things like ICT fit, buying group engagement, intent, or first party behavior, and then the purchase ready signals that you called out earlier, right? Depending on what kind of content they're consuming and pages they're visiting. Those are all definitely signals. And then, an accepted qualified account means that the SDRs or sales have accepted the account for active pursuit, right? The proverbial handshake. And that acceptance matters because it creates accountability. That marketing isn't just handing over a hot account, right? There's that context that I talked about earlier. And sales is saying, yes, this account is worth working now, and I can see all the angles worth pursuing. I can see who I need to speak with, who's engaged the most, who isn't engaged, and I need to reach out to, and what signals they're sending so that I can tailor my messaging accordingly. So, yeah, I think that, uh, introducing an MQA and an AQA, and then the rest of the story continues as it has always before, right? And it becomes an opportunity, and then hopefully it's closed and it's won for the wins. So I don't know. What do you think, Stefan, about this moving
Yes.
away from the
Um,
MQL one?
I think I personally don't like acronyms, so I think the more acronyms we use, the more complicated it gets. And, I don't know. I'm a simple mind. I don't understand complicated. Excuse me for that. Excuse my ignorance. I don't understand like what is so the less handovers we have, the better our life is gonna be. So I look at it as so you're talking about marketing, accepted lead, and then was the other one AQA? Sorry, what
Accept basically the accepted qualified account.
accepted qualified account. So I think basically this like having more acronyms shows us that we still work in silos and there is no unified go-to-market team. Once we have, well, like, look, if there is someone in charge, like actually, I'll tell you this, like most of the companies where I've worked, and then they had a really good results in terms of as ABM. They had sales responsible for naming accounts. So marketing was responsible for finding engagement, figuring out signals, but sales was the one who was like, okay, here's the context I have. It could be as informal as I know that they're having an closed RFI in 4 months, right? And they have the context, and then for me, okay, I don't know where would I get this information, but then that would mean for me that we're past the stage where marketing has to qualify these accounts, or and then it has to go through some sort of a filter. I already know that who I need to focus on, right? So I think I'll bring an analogy here. Like I all like we all love democracy, and I think it's not a perfect system, but it's the best we have. But in times of war, any of these policies, like Greek cities, they would elect a person or a commander who would sort of head them to war to defend the citadel. And in this case, I think it's very important that in terms of like counting or pointing out what accounts would be a great fit, if that would be actually a sales task, and then there would be
Mm.
um, and the marketing would be like, okay, let's bring in the dough, let's bring in the signals, let's bring in the intent that we might find here.
Good. Well, looks like we went a little over. Thank you, Stefan, and thank you all so much for spending time with us today. I hope this gave you a clear way to think about ABM measurement, not as more reporting, certainly, but as a shared model for seeing whether the accounts you care about are actually moving. So we'd love to keep this conversation going. Please connect with us if you haven't already on LinkedIn, and subscribe to Rev AI Real Talk, and send us the topics that you want to unpack next. Take care and have a great rest of your day. Thanks again for joining.
Andrew, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please drop them to me or Nikke Rouse on LinkedIn, and we'll answer them at the future Rev AI Real Talk episodes. Bye bye. Much love.
Much love. Take care.
Okay.